Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. It is the blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man on social media, signing black in and shining again, asking you to hit the share button because this message is more important than the messenger. They all are. This one is going to be about the idea of SYSLSP. Save yourselves, light-skinned people. Some might hear this and say, oh man, this nigga about to jump on that bandwagon. No, not necessarily. I mean, I always look into something before I do. Goodness gracious, I thought that was a gunshot. I always look into something before I jump into it. I mean, for one thing, I did that with Islam. And since then, as a Muslim, you got to make sure everything else you jump into does not nullify your faith. Because God was here before anything else. And when all else is gone, he will still be the Lord. That being said, I learned, Elias Empire and or Elias Empire, I'm not sure how he would want to pronounce it, but he is a channel holder. I didn't find any content, so I can't say that he's a content creator yet, because I didn't find any, but he and I learned something from each other. And this is because when we were chatting in somebody else's live stream, we were able to, one, take turns, because we were writing. Secondly, we were able to read each other's messages without the assumption of hostility or arrogance in the other person. He said, y'all got light skin privilege and got it easy. And I said, some things are easier. Yes, that does happen sometimes. But there are also times when we have it harder as well, because our people are hard on each other. And anytime we perceive that someone has a privilege, we ourselves are going to jump out and make it more difficult for them. We ourselves will make sure that the privilege they may have is not going to be worth it. Now, what if they don't have privilege, or we assume they have more than they actually have? You see, when it's not complexion, we go in on everything else. And the colorism within the black community, whether you want to say it's only one direction, the opposite direction, the reaction is by definition not colorism, whatever the case is, this issue in the community is a symptom of a larger illness. That's the truth. We're just trained to be against each other. And that's why when someone's complexion is so right smack dab in the middle that in no region of the United States or the West could they be made fun of for it, guess what happens? We start moving on to other things. And if somebody is simply nice to look at, we get on them about how nice they look, especially if it's a guy. Oh, pretty ass nigga. We simply go in on each other. A lot of it is jokes and a lot of it is real. But I'm going to tell you what colorism taught me about sisters. Well, with guys, a lot of times it's jokes. And if you really ain't somebody's enemy, most of the time it's jokes. They dish it out, they can take it. Somebody one time said something about me being half cave beast, and I was like, you just mad because your foot looks like my hand. It was jokes. The funny thing is his father said the same thing to my dad. My dad said the same thing to his father in reply. It was jokes. Later on, something else happened. I got older. The comments from males, the closer I got to adulthood, became more jokes. And I had my own jokes in return. You want to know what else happened? Something else went on too. It actually got worse from the girls. It didn't stop from the girls, and it even got worse. Now, the jokes were usually about other things, and they were not even outright jokes about colorism at times. Sometimes they would just play with my hair. Stuff like that. And so there was a difference in the treatment. But when it came to the outright, they didn't say, look, we're doing this because we're treating you differently, and in many cases worse than other guys because of your phenotype. They didn't come out and say it, but they had jokes. And the older I got, the worse it got. And they were serious. They weren't joking. That's where the difference came in. Colorism taught me that we men, we got to be mature. We don't get away with this stuff. But that we have allowed in our community girls to act, we've allowed girls to stay girls even when they're old enough to be adult women. We don't demand that they act this way. Corporate America does. They can't go in a job acting like a damn child in many cases. Sometimes they're allowed to get away with that too, but we don't let them go into our places of business acting like they're kids. And then all of a sudden in our personal lives and personal relationships with them and even marriages, we let them act like children and we still give them a penis and try to give them an orgasm. What the F are we doing? One of the first things we should do is we should make this understood. We'd rather buy a doll than to give a penis to a lady that is still a child in her mind, even if she's an adult in every other part of life except with us. That's the worst time to be a damn child, as far as we're concerned. Even if she's your wife, you come home and you tell her, you're not going to be the only wife if you keep acting like this. And yes, I'm going to marry another wife before I even grant you a divorce, but I'm not going to give you the penis till you act like you're grown. As grown as I have to act, so do you. You see, in the end, even colorism will make you red pill. I mentioned this before in a previous video, but I thought I'd remind some folks. We talk about colorism. Do light-skinned black folks have to separate from the rest of the community? I'm not really sure that we have to do it, but by the same token, we may be forced to. I don't really know. I mean, the conversation has shifted a lot since I last lived in the United States. I'm listening from abroad. You know better than I do if it has to be that way. But I learned something from anonymous black man, too. He describes himself as a dark-skinned black man who has said that they may have to do it. I wasn't aware of this at first. He is describing himself as a dark-skinned black man, and he is telling light-skinned men that you, or light-skinned black folks, you may have to separate because a lot of us are trying to get rid of you while still putting you out there on the front lines to march. That, I must say, that's downright insulting. To me, I might accept something like that. Okay, I'll march. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. I'm not asking for anything in return. But what I do, I'm doing on my own terms without asking for remuneration, just support. I might accept that for myself. That don't mean I'm going to sit up here and speak on behalf of anybody else of any shade and say, yeah, we're going to get out there, we're going to do this for them, and we're not going to ask for anything in return. No, that's not the way that works. No. If we marching so that them cops stop shooting up tropical looking brothers, great, we do that. But when they start shooting up some of us who have a bit less melanin in our skin, you gonna march for us, or you gonna say, no, that nigga light skin, it don't count? They're now beating up white boys at this point. The hell you think they're gonna do to a light-skinned Negro, but you ain't gonna march? I'm not gonna sit up and tell other light-skinned folks to do that. Oh, it was an accident or something. No. We're not gonna sit up here and be the white devils of the black community, because we're not. And likewise, I'm not going to sit up here and throw any of my relatives under the bus out of the shade. And I'm not going to assume that they're out to get me or that they hate me because of my shade. I'm not making these assumptions. But I am going to call out those who want to sit up here and take people who have known nothing other than being black their whole lives and then throw them out and say, no, you're not us anymore. Now, it's one thing to say I'm not so sure, but it's completely different when you say, no, you ain't us. But when it's time to march, you better be out there on the front line. Matter of fact, you need to go and kill this cop over here to prove your loyalty to us. I'm going to sit back and watch and wait. No, that's not the way this works. Anyway, now that I've explained that, the point I wanted to make was that even this type of thing showed me a lot about the actual gender roles. Because in reality, the real truth is, I have not had to deal with this kind of stupidity from a male of our race since I turned 18. Thanks for listening. Wa alaikum salam. I appreciate the patience. The blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man sign and black out. Assalamu alaikum and black male power. All shades, just because they don't like it.